Okay, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. Today is November 5th, a beautiful day. We're actually all located in Cincinnati today. And the reason why I say that is traditionally Fabrizio is in Colombia down in South America. So we're very fortunate to have our infrastructure team all in Cincinnati. So we are calling in from Cincinnati. But my name is Shannon Ryan. I'm the Vice President of Growth and Marketing for Veritas Automata. And George will be getting into our solution, so I won't get ahead of ourselves. But again, thank you for joining our webinar. We are seeing this trend in life sciences and actually throughout multiple verticals and markets about building infrastructure for speed, security, and scale. So I'm joined here with my colleagues George Hoffman, Shanghai, and Fabrizio. So I'm going to turn it over to the team, and we look forward to hearing from you after the webinar. So I'll hand it over.
Thank you, Shannon. I'll start. I am Fabrizio Sgura, the Chief Engineer at Veritas Automata. I'm also wearing my Cubestronaut jacket because I'm Kubernetes certified. I'm proud to be certified on Kubernetes. It's a fantastic technology. And since 2021, I've been shaping our Kubernetes powered cloud to the edge architecture for truth in automation and advancing scalable and secure platforms for life sciences. So I'm excited because I focus on modern distributed platforms here, innovation, and open source strategy, driving engineering excellence, guiding teams, and delivering our solutions across regulated and high trusted environments. Shenha, go ahead with your introduction.
Yeah, hi. Thank you, Fab. My name is Shen Ho Chen, and I am a Senior VP of Software Engineering at Veritas Automata right now. I have been working in the software industry for the past 30 years, with the most recent 13 years in Veritas Automata. My passion is to work with the software developers to build the code line by line to deliver the software to solve the business problems. So I have some case studies that how we solved the problems for our customers, which are available at our company site, veritasautomata.com. I'm excited to have this discussion on the speed and security for the life sciences. Now, George, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, my name is George Hoffman. I'm an associate product manager with 8 years of experience in the software industry in multiple roles. I'm fascinated with all different types of hardware, and I love automation. I'm actually listed as one of the inventors on a recent patent titled Methods and Systems for Autonomous Dispensing of Products. If you want to talk automation or GPUs, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn with the QR code above. So let's get started. Before we dive into modernization, let me give you a quick snapshot of who we are at Veritas Automata and how we approach this work. Veritas is a cloud-native computing and Microsoft partner. So today we'll be talking about both ecosystems. We help growth-minded organizations unlock innovation through automation that scales with intention. In other words, we don't just throw technology at a problem. We design systems that fit the realities of regulated industries and deliver measurable value. We work across the full lifecycle of intelligent systems. That means everything from vision and roadmap development to rapid prototyping and implementation, and then into long-term optimization. Our work really spans 4 core areas. First, strategic consulting services. Here, we help organizations align growth goals with product strategy, cloud architecture, and transformation planning. Second is professional implementation services. That's where we deliver automation, cloud, and infrastructure end to end. The third is staff augmentation. We provide expert talent that plugs directly into your roadmap so teams can move faster without compromising quality. And fourth, our intelligent data practice and on-demand R&D lab. This is where we enable AI, rapid testing, red teaming, and we build pipelines that turn data into decisions. From ideation through execution, our goal is always the same: helping organizations build future-ready systems that scale securely, stay compliant, and deliver confidence. And that really frames the role we play. We help organizations move from strategy through execution with systems that are secure, compliant, and built to scale. But the real question is, why now? Why does modernization matter so much in life sciences today? Sheng, I'll hand it over to you to walk us through that context.
Yeah, thank you, George. When we talk about the life science today, there's one word that comes up over and over. That's speed. So basically, people they want things now, now. I want it now because of the use of the internet is now in everybody's hand. So the pressure of the speed can only increase, especially in life sciences. So the research and the development cycles that used to take years and now expected to move within months or days or even hours. The clinical trials are expanding globally, which means the data is coming in from many different sites in many different formats and on the very tight timelines. And at the same time, the patients and the healthcare providers are demanding faster outcomes. So the pressure to accelerate the discovery has never been greater. So now, while the demand for the speed is very clear, because everybody wants things now, so the other side of the equation is the regulation. So the industry operate under some of the most rigorous compliance frameworks in the world. You have HIPAA in the US, you have GDPR in the Europe, you have GXP guidelines, you have CFR Part 11 for the electronic records. Each of these requires traceability, the audit readiness, and the strict controls on the data and workflows. There's no room for cutting corners. So you have two competing forces: the need to move faster than ever, and the requirement to maintain the highest standards of security and compliance. And that tension is exactly where the infrastructure modernization comes in. So the modern infrastructure, whether built on the Kubernetes, Azure, or other cloud-native technologies, is what allows the organization to balance these pressures. It makes it possible to scale research workloads globally without compromising on compliance. It provides the automation and orchestration that shorten timelines while still embedding security controls into every layer of the platform. Without the modernization, the organization they are stuck. So they either move too slowly uh, or too slow to stay competitive, or they take risks that the regulators won't tolerate. So with the modernization, they can actually achieve both the speed to market and the compliance confidence, and scalable operations that support the innovation long term. And that's why we are here today. So let's to talk about how organizations can make that shift successfully. So Fab, maybe you can set the stage with what's holding the organization back today, like legacy systems, like rising costs, and the regulatory pressure.
Yeah, sure. You were talking, Shanghai, about speed, timing. And so, for that reason, when we think about legacy versus the current cloud and Azure options that we have with Kubernetes, AKS, many solutions, we think about saving money, optimizing costs. And so, many organizations are still running on legacy systems that weren't designed for today's workloads. They create silos across R&D. This is very common. Clinical, commercial teams. And these older systems do not communicate with each other due to using point solutions which have a narrow and specific focus. This lack of interoperability creates integration issues. It can lead to data fragmentation and creates data exchange and analysis bottlenecks. There are needs that are coming from the legacy that we are still stuck on solving as a real problem of the daily activity in the companies that are working on life sciences. And manual processes slow things down, and drive costs up. Typical relationship. And regulators now expect audit ready traceability, which older systems just can't deliver. This combination makes modernization more of a necessity than an option. It's not something that you can choose to do. Electronic data capture inefficiencies decrease operational throughput for everything from capturing patient reported outcomes, lab results, and safety event reporting to trial status reports, enrollment logs, drug supply management, regulatory document handling. All of these things are just a peak of what we see when we have a slow system, a legacy one. Global regulations introduce a complex set of challenges, like regulators require immediate auditability, data consistency, data transparency. Multi region clinical trials are especially challenging as each region must adhere to its own rules. So the bottom line is that legacy systems were not originally designed to handle the requirements of today. Modernizing these systems is really critical to maintain operational success, manage increasing costs, and fulfill complex regulatory requirements with ease. So, Shanghai, show us how cloud native foundations are transforming this landscape.
Yeah, thank you, Fab. Uh, when we think about what enables the modernization, there are two technologies that stand out are Kubernetes and Azure. At Veritas Automata, we consider ourselves the cloud agnostic. So we always like to discuss both solutions. The Kubernetes has really become the backbone of the cloud native transformation. It's not just about the containers, it's about the orchestration and scalability. The Kubernetes gives organizations the ability to run the workloads consistently across multiple environments, whether that's in the lab environment, in the cloud, or across global sites. It handles scheduling, scaling, and resilience in ways that simply were not possible with the older infrastructure models. So Azure complements this foundation by bringing in the services the life sciences organization that need, but in a way that aligns with the compliance requirements. Azure Kubernetes Service, or AKS, provide a managed Kubernetes environment. On top of that, Azure layers in secure data management, AI, and machine learning capabilities, and integration with regulatory frameworks. This means the organizations, they don't get the raw infrastructure, they get a trusted platform with guardrails already built in. What makes the combination so powerful is that it addresses the two most pressing needs we talked before, uh, which are the speed and the compliance, the security. So the Kubernetes gives the agility and the scalability to move quickly for the operational perspective. The Azure ensures that the workloads, the data pipelines, the applications meet the security and the regulatory expectations of the industry. So basically, the compliance. Together, they enable the organizations to scale the research workloads, the accelerate deployments, and innovate without the constant worry of falling out of the compliance. So this is why when we talk about the modernization in life sciences, we almost always see the Kubernetes and the Azure at the core. So they are the foundation for everything else, the practices, the architecture patterns, and the innovations we will explore today. So now let's shift from the foundation to the journey. George, I'll hand over to you to talk about the practical paths the organization will take to modernize.
Thanks, Shekhar. Yeah, when we talk about infrastructure modernization, it's important to recognize that it doesn't happen overnight. No organization flips a switch and suddenly becomes cloud native. It just doesn't work that way. It's a journey. And depending on where you start, that journey can look very different. In our experience, there are three main paths that we see organizations take. The first path is migration. This could be as simple as a lift and shift of existing applications into the cloud, or as complex as rebuilding them to be fully cloud native. Migration is often the fastest way to reduce reliance on legacy infrastructure and start capturing some early wins. The second is hybrid and multi-cloud adoption. This is especially common in life sciences, where organizations need to operate across multiple geographies and partners. A hybrid model lets you keep some workloads on-prem while moving others to the cloud. A multi-cloud approach can reduce dependency on a single vendor and give flexibility for specialized workloads. Both provide resilience and scalability that older systems just simply can't match. The third path is all about efficiency gains through practices like DevOps and site reliability engineering. This is where organizations focus less on where the workloads run and more on how teams build, deploy, and manage them. By automating repeatable processes and embedding reliability into everyday operations, you see measurable improvements in speed, cost, and quality. Each of these paths is valid, and the right choice depends on your organization's starting point and goals. What they all have in common is this: they move you away from the brittle legacy systems and towards platforms that are scalable, reliable, and ready for the future. And this ties directly into how we design modern architecture. Fabrizio, why don't you take us deeper into that?
Sure, I will. So, when we talk about modern architecture patterns for life sciences, uh, one of the most important principle, I think, it's modularity. The days of massive monolithic applications are behind us, but they are still present, really, because there are still a lot of companies that are using this kind of approach, like we were talking earlier. Instead, organizations are moving toward architectures that are built to be flexible, adaptable, and resilient. This is where we are pointing toward. We would like to be flexible, adaptable, and resilient. That's where microservices, APIs, event driven workflows come in. And microservices break large, complex systems into smaller, independent components that can evolve at their own pace. Think about this like when you think about a team of people that are working together like microservices, independent components, but with a common goal, and the APIs for this case is the common coordinator that provide the standardized connections that allow those components to talk to each other, while event-driven workflows make sure that data and processes move seamlessly across systems. This approach is particularly critical in life sciences. Think about the data pipeline in genomics research or during a clinical trial. Those pipelines need to be secure because they are handling sensitive patient data. They need to be auditable because regulators will want a record of every transaction. And they need to be adaptable because research questions and trial designs are constantly changing. So there is a need for this flexibility, adaptability. A reference architecture becomes the blueprint that holds it all together. It shows the teams how the pieces fit, like how the data flows, where compliance gates are built in, and how the system can be scaled without losing control. With a reference model, organizations can innovate faster while still ensuring that critical requirements like traceability and compliance are never compromised. And of course, none of these matters if security isn't built into the foundation. So let's dig on that next now with security as a topic. When it comes to infrastructure in life sciences, security can just be an afterthought. You cannot think about it later. So we add what we need in a second time. It has to be built in from the very beginning. If you add it later, you create gaps that are difficult and even sometimes impossible to close. This is where Kubernetes comes in. Kubernetes will give you the strong foundation for managing all of those things related to security. So let's think about role based access control. You can define exactly who has access to what. With secrets management inside Kubernetes, you protect sensitive credentials and data. And with network policies, or the common known in the old times as firewalling, you can control how services talk to one another, limiting exposure if something goes wrong. These are practical tools that turn security into part of the operating model, not just a built in feature, something that you can use eventually. You have to start with it, and Kubernetes has it in its own main bundle. Another critical piece is observability. So, what you can get from the data that are flowing in your application, the so called in the past monitoring. In a regulated industry, you need to be able to trace every action, every transaction, end to end. Observability makes it possible to track what happened, when, and by whom. So that kind of transparency is what auditors and regulators expect. They expect it from you. So when you combine Kubernetes native controls with Azure's compliance certifications and built-in security services, you cover the major frameworks that govern the life sciences. So again, to give the names that Shenha already mentioned to us, HIPAA, GDPR, GXP, CFR, Part 11, all of these measure frameworks, they are covered in the Azure's compliance certifications and built-in security services. This is this is not just about checking a box. It's about giving organizations the confidence that innovation won't put sensitive data or patient trust at risk. This is what we mean by compliance by design. Security isn't a barrier to innovation. It's what makes innovation sustainable in highly regulated environments. George, let's talk about how teams take these practices and actually they can also operationalize them day by day.
Thanks, Fabrizio. We've talked about infrastructure and security, but here's the reality. The best technology will fall short if teams don't have the right practices in place. Modernization, it isn't just about platforms, it's about how people work with these platforms. One of the most effective approaches we see is GitOps. By treating Git as the single source of truth, everything becomes reproducible and auditable. If something breaks, you can roll it back with confidence. And if an auditor asks for proof, you've got the record right there. Next is the CI/CD pipelines with compliance gates built in. Instead of waiting until the end of a release to do checks, the system enforces these checks automatically as code moves through the pipeline. This means that security and compliance are part of every build, not something that slows things down later on down the line. And then there's testing automation. Manual testing, it just can't keep up with the pace of modern delivery. By automating tests, you reduce errors, speed up releases, free teams to focus on higher value work. The key point is this: these practices are not optional. They are guardrails that keep teams moving quickly while staying compliant. Without them, modernization becomes too fragile. And with them, you create a repeatable, reliable way of working that makes modernization sustainable. Now, let's zoom out. Shenghao, can you show us how these practices scale beyond individual teams and into the broader enterprise?
Sure. Thanks, George. One of the biggest challenge in general in the IT world is that you can see that the many critical business systems they are operating in silos. Uh, and this is very true in the life sciences. So the RD is focused on the discovery, the clinical operations are focused on the trials, and the supply chain is focused on the delivery. So each group has its own system and its own data. They are not talking to each other, so which makes the collaboration very difficult. So the modern infrastructure that change that dynamic. So by building on a shared cloud native foundation, all these functions can finally work together in the real time. So they can talk to each other in the real time within the modernized infrastructure. So the data they moves from more smoothly across the organization, and the insights can be applied where they matter most. So basically, to enable the communications across the systems using the modernized infrastructure. So this opens the door for the real innovation as well. So like the digital twins, digital twins that allows the researchers to simulate the outcomes before investing costly trials. And the AI-driven discovery can analyze massive data sets to surface the new possibilities. And when these tools are supported by a unified infrastructure, the products that move through the development and into the market much faster. That's why this modernization of the infrastructure really matters. So the Kubernetes plays a central role here. It provides the scalability that needed to extend these capabilities across the departments, across the geographies, and across the partner networks. So what used to be difficult or slow is now practical and repeatable and efficient with the modernized infrastructure. So the result is an enterprise that no longer struggles with silos, but instead they operate as one connected system, moving the innovation forward at speed and scale. So now, Fab, let me pass to you to summarize the payoff of this journey of the faster innovation, the safer trials, and the scalable future growth.
Thank you. Effectively, I think that we started with legacy, then we went considering microservices versus monolithic. We added the Azure capabilities that you can use for that. And finally, I talked about security. We covered the challenges, the foundations, and the best practices. Now we have to talk about money and the payoff. What is really the advantage of using all of these technologies that we have been talking about, the strategies? So let's think that when organizations modernize their infrastructure, the discovery starts to happen faster. And this is something really desirable because we want to be fast in a competitive market. Research teams can move from concept to testing in days instead of weeks or also months sometimes. Clinical trials run more reliably because data pipelines are standardized, secure, easier to audit. That reduces delays and avoids costly network and rework. At the same time, risk is reduced. Security and compliance are not added at the end. They are embedded into every part of the platform. That gives regulators confidence, but more importantly, it gives patients and partners confidence that sensitive data is being handled responsibly, consistently, with all the things that we were talking in mind. And when speed and trust come together, organizations unlock something bigger. I would say scalable future growth. You can expand research, run trials in multiple regions. You can become ubiquitous or bring new therapies to market faster, all without losing control. It's a combination of innovation, safety, and scale, and that keeps life sciences companies competitive in a very demanding environment. That is the real outcome of modernization. It is not just about technology, strategy, or something that is the secret for having eternal life. It's about enabling the industry to deliver breakthroughs with confidence and speed. George, let me hand it to you so you can walk everyone through the next steps that they can take.
Thanks, Fabrizio. Yeah, so when you think about modernization, it can feel overwhelming. Where do you even begin? The good news is you don't have to do everything all at once. The smartest place to begin is with an assessment. You need to understand where your infrastructure stands today, what's working, what's holding you back, and where the biggest opportunities are. From there, the next step is to choose a pilot workload. This could be a compliance-driven application, a clinical data pipeline, or even a research project that just needs more scalability. The goal is to pick something meaningful that can prove success quickly and build momentum inside the organization. Once that foundation's in place, it's all about scaling with confidence. You take the lessons from the pilot, apply them across other workloads, other functions, or even other regions. That's when modernization starts to deliver enterprise-level impacts. At Veritas Automata, this is the journey we walk through with our clients every single day, from assessment to roadmap development to full execution. We're there at every step, making sure the systems that you build are secure, compliant, and designed for long-term growth. And if you're curious about what's coming next for the industry, we'll be sharing a preview here in just a second of our December webinar, where we'll dive into technology trends shaping life sciences in 2026.
So, before going to wrap up, as George introduced us, we want to share this quick preview of what's coming next. In December, we will be hosting our next webinar. This is Technology Trends Shaping Life Sciences in 2026, because we want to look at the future now. We thought we were talking about all the things, the strategies, what's now happening, but we want to bring you to the future in 2026 and let us share your vision and our vision meet together in a common way. In that session, we will take a forward looking view at how AI cannot miss in these days. Advanced data platforms and regulatory technology are reshaping the industry. We'll explore the trends that are going to have the biggest impact on research, clinical operations, and commercialization over the next few years. And that will be a great opportunity to look beyond the day to day and think about where the industry is heading and how organizations can get ahead of the curve. So they need to be focused on that specific trend that is driven by this technology. And I think that you should be there. We'd love to have you joining us, and we look forward to continuing the conversation. I take the opportunity to say goodbye and to ask my friends to say cheers and goodbye and see you next time in
Thank you.
our next
Everyone.
webinar.